the podcast with Clark Bartram and Jeremy Jackson, sponsored by CBTs.
He goes, Clark, I got one hit left in me, and he is saving it for somebody. And I pity the fool who gets hit by San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl champion, Mr. Gary Plummer's in the building. Let's get some applause for him. Let's go. Our producer's late on the actual fake applause, so that was real. But I still love Jim no matter what. Oh, no, not. We can't fire him at all. He's do good.
Hey, well, we realize you don't always get the applause when you deserve it. You know
what I mean? That's it. And that's what he's going to talk about today. It was hard for him to get into the NFL. So, Gary, let's just jump right into this thing, man. Let's jump into the morning of the Super Bowl. You wake up. You go to the stadium. You're in the locker room. You're sitting there. What does that feel like, man?
The interesting part, it was my 12th year playing professional football. And, just like anything else, you get better as time goes on. And those butterflies that you have when you're in high school and college and then in the pros are pretty substantial. But after a while, you start to learn that you need to embrace that stuff. If anyone out there that's listening has ever been nervous, that's really an evolutionary way of saying, I'm getting you ready right now. Elevating your heart rate, you can see better, you can hear better. There's many reasons for it. So before the Super Bowl, even though it was my 12th year, so I would say years 8 through 12, you're so confident that I wasn't even getting butterflies anymore. And then for the Super Bowl, because you don't know, is this your one and only shot? I was so nervous. They weren't butterflies, they were bats. I mean, just flapping around in my stomach, felt like I was going to throw up.
I can feel it right now.
and all of a sudden, so a guy named Ricky Jackson, who's in the Hall of Fame, linebacker that was in his 13th year from New Orleans, he is in the locker right next to me. And all of a sudden...
Was he naked?
No.
Okay.
Darn. We wanted the real story.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. So all of a sudden, a hand goes on my shoulder and a hand goes on Ricky Jackson's shoulder, and a guy leans in and says, don't worry, tonight I'm getting you guys your first Super Bowl ring. It was Jerry Rice.
Let's go. Jerry Rice.
Come on.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
I am not kidding you. From that moment on, literally all the nerves, all the anxiety left my body. I got on the phone from the locker room, called my wife, and said, have the boys, who I think were 8 and 10 at the time, on the 50-yard line with 2 minutes to go in the game. I'm pulling them down onto the field.
I've seen that picture in your house, in your trophy room.
It's really the coolest moment in my entire career.
That's got to be special to take your son down there on the football, the Super Bowl, man, and knowing that, and not like, listen, get him ready because we're doing this. There's something about that.
There was so much confidence in that locker room. It was truly phenomenal, and it didn't happen like I'm sure we'll talk about in life. It just doesn't happen because you want it to happen. We knew that it was going to happen. The confidence level for that team, I am not exaggerating. We practiced all week long in Miami before the game. The football, when the offense was on the field, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Ricky Waters, did not hit the ground. There wasn't one incomplete pass. There wasn't one fumble. Nothing.
Well, you scored within the first 2 minutes or something, right?
Yeah, and then again in the first 3 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
It was a machine. It was fun.
So there's a really famous clip of you. You see it on ESPN all the time, and anytime they're showing the San Francisco history of all of the victories they've had in the Super Bowl. There's one of you when Steve Young didn't have a Super Bowl yet, and he was following up Montana, and he came and he said, get this monkey off my back, and it was you that walked over to him and made pretend like you were pulling this monkey, and you said, it's a gorilla, like he had this pressure on him to win the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, and actually, Steve Young has a great foundation, the Forever Young Foundation, that gives to so many kids charities. He's always been an amazing guy, And to see him under that kind of pressure, I grew up in the Bay Area, so I'd followed the 49ers, of course, Montana's legacy, but I also knew Steve Young from the USFL. And I just felt like the fans were so hard on him. It's hard to follow a legend. And,
Jeremy's got to follow me. I mean, he's, when I die, he's got to take over this podcast.
Yes, exactly. It was really interesting because, I always looked at Steve Young as just this amazing athlete, unbelievable quarterback. And up there, people didn't really embrace him. And they almost made it seem like, even if you win a Super Bowl, you're still not Joe Montana. So it really was a moment for him. And he actually has regretted it because he felt like it took the attention away from the team. And it's the ultimate team sport. So that's the kind of guy Steve is.
Yeah, I think he also regretted it because he felt like he disrespected his being taught, being a disciple of Joe Montana. I saw an interview with him recently where he said, I kind of wish I didn't do that because now that I think about it, you get to sit under a guy like that and learn from him. That's a pretty special situation to be in. So with that being said, who are some of the people that you've been around in your career that really molded you and shaped you? I mean, you played with you played with Dion and all those guys, man.
Yeah, I think I would say it was more learning from coaches, dating back to high school. And I know you've coached and helped out Escondido High School. Coaching at that level is so important because you teach guys the fundamentals. A lot of guys, once they get into the NFL, and talking to a good buddy of mine, Ken Norton Jr., who's now up in Seattle.
Whose daddy was a world champion boxer, by the way.
Yeah.
That's good genes right there.
Yeah, I think he only has 4 Super Bowl rings, 3 that he won as a player, 1 in Seattle as a coach. But anyway, where was I going with that? Where were we?
Coaching and how important it is to be
exactly.
around.
So
I'm actually listening while Jeremy's over there Facebooking and doing all kind of stuff.
So it's interesting, Kenny and I had the conversation many times, and you do learn from good coaches in the NFL, but the foundation really starts in Pop Warner and high school. We had a great high school program growing up in the Bay Area. And then I had a coach named Mike Halachek, who was my linebacker coach in college. He was my linebacker coach in the USFL, and then here with the Chargers. And that guy he might have been a former Marine because he gave you no slack,
Semper Fi, baby.
no slack whatsoever. I mean, this guy, you were either going to do it perfect on every play or you weren't going to do it at all. And one of the things I think, you're talking about, oh, that must have been amazing. We're talking about the Super Bowl, unbelievable. But it's all the stuff that goes into it, as you alluded to. And thinking of Mike Halachek, I think of the movies, the tapes that you have to watch. And you're sitting in those classrooms and you're getting shredded if you didn't play something exactly right. There's a play, for example, called the jab OT. And everybody runs it. It's an I formation. The 2 backside guard and tackles pull to the left, and the running back kind of fakes right and then goes left, and it's an off tackle play. And there's a lot of people have a hard time diagnosing it. And he literally told me before we were playing the Rams and Eric Dickerson, and that was their one play. He said, "You're either going to make this team by because it was in the preseason,
tackling that fool
by playing the jab OT well, or you're getting cut." And thankfully, I made 2 tackles on that play. But I had heard
2 tackles on the same play. Would they pitch it or something?
Yes, exactly. Dickerson was only in there for about 2 series, and so he didn't get the ball all the time. But the interesting part is that we had seen all these other guys that were the first team guy, and they just kept rotating guys in. They couldn't do it. And, you just have to learn from other people's mistakes.
Why don't you give JJ that ring there?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I was like, let's show these
I was wondering what he was looking at because I have it in my lap.
He's actually looking past the ring at your crotch, but
thank
that's
gosh
another
it's the shiny object that he's looking at.
How awesome is that? Show that camera there.
To show the ring.
Switch over there, Jim. There we go. There you go. Stick it back up there again.
Stick it. Look at that thing, man.
Boom.
He's actually focused now because he's off of Facebook.
Shiny stuff.
Well,
It's
Jim's
'cause I
got a
shiny
lot of stuff to do with it. He's got to run
beautiful.
cameras, and so if it really got bad in life, how much could you pawn that thing for?
Well, unfortunately, we had a player, I think it was around the year 2000, that sold his. And he sold it on eBay. I think he sold it for 95 grand.
Wow.
His name was Lee Woodall. And the unfortunate part is that, he had made a ton of money in his career. I think he played 8 years. But squandered it like a lot of guys.
That sucks.
Right,
He's big, but he's got little girl fingers because it won't fit on mine. I'm just saying, I got man hands.
I'm very interested in that. Talking about Woodall. The rise and the fall. The further up you are, the further you have to fall. Or they say it's
you can
lonely
talk
at the
about
top,
that.
but you eat good. You know what I mean? You said something earlier which hit me because it's not too different from the industry, the world I'm in with addiction. You talked about how when your adrenaline is up, when it's game time, how you hear better, you smell better, your senses become more acute. Stuff seems to slow down on the field when you're fully activated in that zone. And there's books out there and scientific research that calls that the warrior gene. They say really truly only 10% of the world's population have that gene, which is a gene that's designed to make sure no one civilization becomes extinct. And it's why they say there's so many alcoholics that like Native American, or how Irish people can't hold their liquor. And it has to do with the genocides when England came and wiped out Irish, and the only ones that survived had that gene. They were the craziest. They were the ones under attack when everything slowed down, when they knew exactly what to do in the height of the situation because that gene was activated. So therefore, their offspring are more likely to have that gene. And I believe I have that gene, and I know that feeling. I do jiu-jitsu now, and that's like my Super Bowl. The Pan Ams are coming up in a week. I'm going to do it. I'm not ready. I used to be, up there Super Bowl ready to win, and I'm not. And when you were talking and I was picturing that and going through those feelings, it was actually really encouraging, for me looking forward to this tournament. But activating that gene, but also deactivating that gene. And so you talk about the rise and the fall. You have that gene activated, those heights of performance, those accolades, those cheering crowds. And when that's gone, what do? And the first thing I think of is you doing gardening in Clark's
Dude,
yard.
my
like
front
you got
yard.
a Super Bowl champ doing gardening, but there's
How
something.
many people have that?
But because I've seen it. Yeah,
It's because he just wants to come and hang out with my wife. We're just going to keep it
And
real
it's-
right now.
but- and it's
It has
beautiful.
nothing-
She's way better looking than you.
But I believe in the addiction world and in the recovery world, and not just drugs and alcohol, but any addiction, that selfless act where the serotonin is being released, where you're giving back, where you're creating, that pleasure is the same reward centers. That gives you that same feeling of accomplishment and goodness. So it's a cool parallel, and to see that you're working both, you've done both, and you're doing both. That's really neat.
It is a transition, though. We unfortunately we talked about Lee Woodall. The statistic is 82% of all NFL players within 3 years of retirement are either broke, are divorced, or have a criminal record. And it is because those high highs that you experience playing football are phenomenal. And guys are looking for that when they're done. And there's really nothing like it.
It can break
I think
you.
that some guys do turn to drugs.
Drugs, money, sex, gambling, they're getting that rush. They want that dopamine, right? And serotonin, they say, is the answer. The serotonin release is the answer to the dopamine, which is the selfless acts, the giving back, the having a community. So, when you're together with your bros that have also, done that, and you're sharing about that and talking about that and not letting any one of them sink down the rabbit hole, that gives the serotonin release that deactivates that pleasure center. Because, quite possibly you have that warrior gene. When you said that, like, not everybody gets that. Not everybody that plays in the NFL has that, I don't think. The fighter pilots have it a lot. SWAT guys have it a lot. NASCAR drivers, F1 racers, like most of those kind of high intensity, like the best of the best have that gene. But what do you do when you're not participating in your particular high intensity situation. Career.
Guarding my front yard.
Guarding the front yard.
And so, some people that have it, obviously it's in less degree than some more in others, but you can really develop it. And I've told Clark the story before. When I was in college at Cal, I was walking on, so it means I didn't get a scholarship, and they moved me to a new position, and I felt like they did it really just to get rid of you because, look, if you make this team, you make all of the coaches that are out there recruiting and giving away 100 scholarships. This kid that didn't get one is going to make the team. Yeah, we don't want that. So they moved me to nose tackle, and the first play I'd ever had in my life as a nose tackle, I knew nothing. I'd never been in a three-point stance before in my life, and I'm across from the center. He snaps the ball. I'm so angry. I explode, and I put my forehead, it's a big one, it's a 5-head actually, under the chin of the center, and I knock him off his feet, and he hits the back of his helmet. I run over him, and then the coach that was back there that was taking the snap, I ran over him too. And everybody oohed and awed. And I knew from that moment on, if I played every down like that I could be pretty good.
Right.
And literally, I'm grateful that from that moment on, I did. So the intensity, you could have that warrior gene, but if you don't use it, it's not going to do you any good.
Stakes sounded pretty high for you. You know what I mean? It's really, really high stakes. I don't know if I envy that, or if everybody would want the stakes to be that high for them all the time. That's a lot.
Well, the stakes are so high. I mean, the NFL's talking about that a lot right now with this whole concussion thing. So if you do your research on Gary, he says he's had close to 2,500 concussions in his career. So how do you do that math? How does that add up? And not concussions are not what people think they are. You don't need to get slammed in the head to get a concussion. Marvis Frazier really gave me the best explanation. Joe Frazier's son, a boxer, he took a glass of ice and he put a fork in it and he spun it around and the ice was hitting the glass. He goes, "Clark, that's a concussion."
That's a very good description of what happens. It's the bruising of the brain if it's a bad enough concussion. But there are 3 grades of concussions: grade 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the worst. If you have a grade 3 concussion, you're knocked out. Everybody knows it. It's the grade 1 and grade 2. Grade 1 is being slightly disoriented and seeing stars. We've all bumped our head on something. If you're out there and you bump your head getting into your car and you see stars, you just had a grade 1 concussion. So I think, when people heard 2,500 concussions, that they freaked out.
Yeah.
These are grade 1 concussions that we now know have a cumulative effect, just like boxers. Boxers are seeing stars many, many times. So I was on with Billy Ray Smith and Scott Kaplan last week, and we talked about this. And Billy Ray brought up a good point. He said, "Actually, Gary, okay, you played 15 years, but how about all those times in practice?"
Oh, yeah.
Because back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't like today. These were full pad practices, full contact practices. Where there's a thing called bull in the ring that people did in high school, and then there's another thing called the Oklahoma drill. So there's 3 offensive linemen, a nose tackle, and 2 middle linebackers, and then a running back. And they put a bag over there, like a big tackling dummy over there, a big tackling dummy over here, and it's very tight. And they snap the ball, and it's live. And let me tell you, when you go and you put your forehead under that guy's chin, he's 300 pounds, you're seeing stars. And now a running back's coming at full speed, and you're a little off balance. If he, ducks his head and puts it under you're getting another one. Right. So sometimes 2 of those happen on the exact same play. So as Billy Ray said, it's probably for you, Gary, that played 15 years, it's probably closer to 4,000 or 5,000.
Wow.
And people scoffed at it. It came out in a podcast up there in the Bay Area. A guy that covers the 49ers did it, And people that I'm a certified nurse, and there's no way this guy's had 2,500. The point wasn't look
You're
at
like,
me.
bitch, come out and play. Let me give you one right now. I'll give you one. I got one hit left in me, and it's
That's
on
what
you.
I'm saving it for. Yes.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the point. The point wasn't to say, look at me, I've had so many concussions. It's look at what you can do to improve. As you were talking about, so the gardening has just been one aspect. It all started doing these things for Steve Young, Forever Young Foundation. He's got something called Sophie's Place. And unfortunately, it's his wife's best friend's daughter died of an aneurysm maybe 4 years ago. And she used to volunteer at children's hospitals. 17-year-old girl. She'd just go in there, and she knew that kids loved music, and she'd just go into their rooms and play for them. So it was a passion of hers because she knew that music really made them happy.
Yeah.
So now Steve Young has teamed up with a couple of quarterbacks in the NFL, and they've built, I think, 4 or 5 of them at children's hospitals. And, they have Third Eye Blind, lots of great people come in and help dedicate these music centers. And they're the only ones in the country. They have people that come into most hospitals, but not dedicated. So I found out just by doing the research that music therapy can be highly beneficial.
Music is unbelievable, man. Anita and I go to concerts all the time, and I just sit back in amazement and watch. You look at one guy getting into his instrument, and you go into such a different place. And then all of a sudden you see somebody else join in with him, and it becomes a symphony, And I know you listen to, orchestras and things like that. The vibrational plane that music will take you to is, I don't think people really get it. We hear these things and you just hear, but if you understand the power of music and what it can do for somebody, it's phenomenal to me, man. I love music.
Well, you don't know until you know. How many people would benefit from gardening? But they just don't know. They haven't done it. When you meditate, when you're gardening, when you're really listening to music, I think what happens in all of those is called entrainment. So when you're gardening and your hands are in the earth, you're becoming entrained and in tune with the frequency of the universe. You're one with that vibration. And when you come into community with the group, when you're really listening to the music, the whole audience can become entrained. Everybody is on the same wavelength, listening at the same time, hearing the same things, and you have that strength in numbers magic. The gardening is with the earth, meditation, kind of same with the group, or even a military cadence. When you get everybody on that, they're entrained. They become one.
Dude, that is the coolest sound in the world. When you have a platoon marching on a parade deck and you're hearing that left foot striking the ground. I'll never forget graduating from boot camp and standing there in formation, getting ready to march out in front of your parents and everybody. And there's so much pain that goes into achieving that place in life. And then you finally get this opportunity to march out. And finally, for once, everybody stops messing around. Everybody takes it serious, and it comes together so unbelievable. I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't thought about that since 1981, man.
And entrainment, meditation, the gardening, art, music, it grows your frontal lobe. So if we're talking about concussions and stuff, a high-fat diet, obviously really good. Lipids, the brain is made of those. You can heal that. But the entrainment grows the frontal lobe. So you can repair brain stuff. You know what I mean?
And you guys just thought JJ was a childhood star gone bad. You didn't know he had all of this freaking wisdom.
Childhood star gone better.
Wait, that's a great point. He's talking about neuroplasticity. And that's what's happened for me. Because I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago with the early stages of dementia. And I would say I'm probably 75% better now than I was 2 years ago. Because you can, in life, we've talked about it when we go speak to juvenile detention facilities. For me, success isn't, just wearing a ring like this or what kind of car you drive. Success is how you handle adversity, because every single one of us as human beings is going to have adversity in their life. If you learn to embrace adversity, then you understand later on. The analogy I give when I'm talking to these kids is, adversity is getting out of bed in the morning and going to school when you you
In
know,
the snow.
don't really want to. Yeah, when you don't really want to go. I mean, you just handle a little bit of adversity. Of course, it's, you know, overcoming cancer or a divorce, a death in the family, losing a job. Those are all very adverse, but you get good at it by doing the small things early on. And, you know, for me, I said I could either be a victim of this or I can overcome it, like I've tried to overcome all this other adversity in my life. And I think all that stuff that happened in football over the years, I think I had probably 900 teammates in 15 years, because the turnover rate is outrageous every year.
What is the average? 3.5 years?
3.5
And you
years.
played 15 total?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the USFL for a second. To me, that's cooler. When you go online and you Google Gary Plummer, you'll see, and if you go into images, when he played in the USFL, which team did you play for?
Oakland Invaders.
The Oakland Invaders. To me, that, you know, obviously I'm very impressed by the NFL stuff, but there was something about the USFL because it was such a short-lived experience, and only, you know, I mean, you can have a certain amount of guys that can play in the NFL, but less guys played in the USFL. What was that like? I mean, was it comparable or?
No, early on, it was probably like a very good college football team. The second year, you know, probably would have been one of the best temes in college. The third year, though, we merged together with the Michigan Panthers, and we had Bobby Hebert.
New Orleans Saints.
And a guy named Anthony Carter, who I think he won the Heisman when he was at Michigan. Anyway, pretty good players. And that year, we ended up going to the championship, and we lost. But it was comparable, I would say, to the lower, you know, third of the NFL. So I feel so grateful that I had the opportunity to do that, because I was not ready as a 23-year-old guy coming out of college to be in the NFL. So I was able to develop incrementally. By the time I got here to play with the Chargers, it was my 4th year of professional football. And, you know, and I was ready because of the adversity.
So were you, I mean, I was watching something on Todd Marinovich the other day, and he, you know, he went in early and all of that. And I remember the coach, when he was with the Raiders, looked at him and said, "Are you ready to go in?" He looked back and he was like, "No, I don't want to go in." Were you nervous as hell your first NFL game that you had to go in? Did you feel ready, or did you? I mean, what was that like?
Well, in the USFL, I told Mike Halachek, the guy I talked about, who was my coach for forever. I was just trying to make the team. There were no rules in the USFL. We literally had 150 guys in training camp.
Oh, wow.
And they were just bringing in bodies. It was 6 weeks of hell. And there were 4 teams down there in the Arizona area where we were training outside of Phoenix. And we'd have scrimmages every day. So talk about concussions. Yeah. And I think we had 24 guys, linebackers, on our depth chart. And I think I was number 25 on a 24-man depth chart. I mean, I was terrible because I'd been playing nose tackle for 2 years in college. I kind of forgot how to play linebacker. And so they kept me around, and it wasn't until the last preseason game that the coach said, "All right, this is it. This is going to determine whether you make this team." And I happened to go in for, you know, like a 4-play series in goal line and made 3 tackles on that 4 down series. And so he came up to me like 2 days later when they decided who was going to make the team and said, "Congratulations, you made the team." And I was so relieved because I was going to make $25,000.
Hey,
but then
I hope I make $25,000 this year.
So then,
I'll be happy, right, Anita?
So then the dude says, "Oh, and by the way, you're starting this week against the Arizona Wranglers." And I looked at him. I said, "What? No." And he said, and he looked at me. He's like, "What do you mean no?" I said, "I'm not ready for that. because I literally got no practice time in this preseason because they were trying guys that had been rejected by the NFL, just, you know, other guys that had better stats, whatever." But anyway, I was able to play that first game, and obviously very nervous, but you know, had 10 tackles, so I was okay.
That's not a bad game right there, 10 tackles. So you guys might have, you know, this whole Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation thing. Did you ever play with David Binn? Yeah. Did you ever play with David Binn, the long snapper?
No, David Binn was the long snapper
on the Chargers.
Who actually took my number when I left to go to the 49ers, number 50.
Okay.
And obviously played a long time. I think 17 years.
17 years, yeah. I was going to say the 6 Degrees of Separation would have been. He dated Pamela Anderson for a long time, and he was on a TV show with Pamela Anderson. So I'm trying to bring this together. These guys are dropping so much wisdom. I'm trying to figure out how I can look smart. You got an NFL star, a TV star, and me.
Yeah, but who didn't date Pamela Anderson?
You, because you were too young?
Thanks for rubbing it in.
You were 12, she was 23. Look, we had a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning of this. I was watching. We had some feedback and things going on. But my man, Jim Brook from Providence Video Productions, fixed it for us. And I want to do something really quick before we get into the rest of this interview. I want him to play my CBT's commercial so you can see this, because this is brought to you by CBT's.
Okay. How much am I making off this commercial?
Nothing. You're just lucky to know me. So watch what we do right here. Get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen. This is brought to you by Providence Video Productions.
It didn't suck.
Quick and to the point.
It didn't suck at all.
Yeah. So where can they get one of these great shirts at?
So, well, I liked it. I like the commercial, but you need
more Anita.
A better looking model to do it.
Talking about her, she was in there.
Oh, I was looking for my water, so I didn't see her. No,
Oh, okay.
I didn't see.
Speaking of better looking, I want to inform everybody of how you stay in such great shape post.
How old are you, Gary?
58.
58. He just turned 58 the other day. We went to dinner with him and his beautiful bride, Corey. We went out to a nice dinner.
We are so lucky that our wives
hot.
have really bad eyesight.
No, I'm good looking. I look. Take a look, everyone. I look good.
Oh my God.
Hey.
And he's humble too.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So tell us about your workout routine now, your passions now, staying fit, staying healthy, what's your diet?
Well, I was super lucky. I mean, I took a class in nutrition when I was in junior college. This is 1978. And
were you alive in 78, Jeremy?
No, sir.
Oh man, how old do you feel now?
I
don't feel old. I feel great. But it was interesting because I learned how to eat right for the first time in my life, and in 9 months, because I'd never worked out before and started eating right, I grew 2.5 inches taller in 9 months as a
I'm still waiting for that, man.
And gained, I think, 28 pounds. Just from lifting. So that introduced me to the power of eating and staying in shape. And so Muscle and Fitness did a thing every year where they'd have the fittest guys in the NFL, and I think I was on the team, like 7 years in a row, just because.
Look at that.
In the 80s, it was really in its infancy. So I didn't, I just literally trained like a maniac, and anything that I found that worked for me, I just did it. So anyway,
he's an actual beast. Gary is not fun to train with. I remember myself and Anita would go to a football field where he feels the most comfortable, obviously, and he would have me skipping rope for 25 yards down the field, and then what we do, sprint back and then skip rope back. And so while he was ahead of me, I would like walk with the jump rope. And he probably knew it because you didn't hear the hitting the ground. But I was like, dang, man, this guy's fit. He's got 2 fake hips. He would hop up the bleachers. And so there is something to, maintaining that, because 58 is like the new 18.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, I think
proof.
We all learn from our own mistakes, but it's more important to even learn from others. And my father passed away at 71. He was a cop for 30 years. So he retired at 55 and then became sedentary and anxiety-ridden and agoraphobic. And, he was 340 pounds when he died. He's 5'10". And I just said, that's not going to happen. So I feel real lucky because of the NFL for introducing me to charity work. And then, Clark started this thing, maybe, was it 5 years ago?
The Hopes and Dreams Academy.
Yeah.
The Hope and Dreams Academy. Remember that?
Yeah. We would go speak to juvenile detention facilities. And so just having that opportunity is so beneficial. And it's one of those things that keeps you healthy.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you're going to mix us up a little live greens.
I'm hungry. Are you hungry?
I ate before I came.
I'm getting low blood sugar.
Well, make us so. Jeremy is a live food. I'm going to call him an expert right now because this guy's done his research on living clean, eating clean. He not only is someone that looks great, he actually lives this lifestyle. So tell us what you're mixing up here, mixologist, while you're doing this.
My Facebook.
Here, you want me to hold it? Like
Yeah,
this?
sure, right now.
Wait.
So
You
what?
better be careful when you say that to Jeremy. You want me to hold it.
Wait, so that, can they see?
As long as you wipe it off before you put it away. I'm making something that
That stuff looks ugly.
I do probably two.
It's the same color as your ugly sweatpants.
Hey, these are Marine Corps.
Those are
man.
Marine Corps,
I wore
right
these
there.
for you guys. In here is basically a superfood meal replacement. I got fats in here. I got fiber in here.
Did you mix this up yourself? I mean,
Yes.
is it your special blend?
Yeah, this is about probably a $300 plus tub of stuff right here.
Jeremy juice.
I got algae, a lot of algae in there. I got bee pollen in there. I
Okay.
got turmeric in there. I got
Turmeric,
I was
tomato,
gonna say,
tomato.
I
you
thought
know.
it was turmeric, but that's okay.
It all depends if you know what side of the tracks you come from. We are in the rich side of town right now, by the way, at Providence Video Productions.
we got chia seeds in here. We got
Chia
flax seeds in here. We got cordyceps mushroom, maitake, shiitake. We got broccoli, kale, dulse, spirulina, chlorella. I got
I've never heard of that
sprouted
one.
barley in here for like a nice low glycemic carb. So we got blood sugar stabilization, we got detoxification, we got protein, vitamins.
So if
minerals.
you were to market this, Jeremy, how much would that jug cost? The
this
actual
jug
big,
would probably be close to $300.
Seriously.
Yeah, but I have a month
me
worth
see
of
that.
meals in here.
Okay, so this is an actual meal replacement.
Yeah, and I do about two times a day, 1 to 2 times a day.
You can put his thing. Don't worry about his thing. We got the live, great stuff going on over here.
Need cups, or you can just.
It
swag
doesn't smell
out.
bad. No, we'll swag it out of there. So, guys, listen. A lot of people have been asking Jeremy and I, what is your whole podcast about? What are you guys going to be talking about? And the reality is, we didn't have a plan coming in here to do this. We just decided one day that we wanted to do a project together, and knowing the Rolodex that he and I have together of amazing people like Gary Plummer, we wanted to just bring you entertainment. We wanted to bring you inspiration and education and motivation, because at the core of who we are and everyone that we bring in here, it's about that. It's about encouraging people and enriching their lives in multiple different ways. So if you listen to this and you're inspired, we've accomplished the goal that we set out to. If you learn something about how to eat cleaner and become healthier, we've accomplished our mission. If we made you laugh, we did what we set out to do. That's really what this whole podcast is about.
I mean, I only signed up for this because I thought I was going to get to work out with Clark more, and we haven't worked out yet.
That's good, dude.
It's good, right?
I guarantee you, if you drink this whole thing, you're going to have the exact same color poop.
We will be
Got
posting
green
pictures
juice?
of Clark's poop later.
Yes, be sure to check it out.
Clark is not stingy nor greedy with pictures of his pictures of his bowel movements. He's very sharing.
I want no
and
part
caring.
of that.
No,
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Did you see that last one I sent you?
yes, but they're still the almost didn't make it one.
Yeah, exactly.
They all have a theme too, which is great. Here's my almost didn't make it boo.
Wow.
Here's my angry baby's arm boo.
See, I guarantee you people are laughing right now. I promise you. And my wife's over there looking at me, I can't believe you're saying that. But you know what? Here's the reality. If you know me, you know I don't care. I really
Listen,
don't
we all
care.
poop, man.
Yeah.
And listen, if
So
you,
there
if,
are no FCC rules here. Is what
Not,
you're saying.
no, man. This
Okay.
is
if you private
CBJJ
message
rules.
private message me, I will forward you pictures of Clark Bartram's poop.
Oh my gosh.
Could sell those on eBay, man.
There's one in particular I won't share about.
Oh, I'm about ready to throw up.
Okay. We're grossing out Gary here. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
We're going to move
Great.
on to our next. So, Gary, when we were first introducing you, Jeremy, the television star who was on the biggest star that the world, I mean, the biggest show that the world has ever known, Baywatch, everybody always wants to be something that they're not. Every actor wants to be an athlete. What does every athlete want to be? An actor or a singer or married to my wife? Or
I actually wanted to be a primary grade school teacher. That's why I went to Cal. I just thought that it would be very fulfilling to do that, and things kind of didn't work out.
Could you do something like that now with your free time? Would you ever? I mean, I know we go in and speak to the kids at juvie and all of that. Do you have a desire to do more of that?
Well, first I'd have to go back and get my teaching credential. Graduated at Cal with a degree in.
Did you really graduate, or you just were a good athlete?
Nutritional.
Were
Obviously, I wasn't a good athlete. I didn't get a scholarship.
Right.
Nutritional science. So, no, I know that we have a huge impact on these kids when we go speak to them, and it's an hour and a half of our time. Coaching, my kids in high school, and going back and doing football camps with some of those kids that I coached now have their own camps. You can have such a dramatic impact in such a short period of time with these kids doing this stuff that, to me, that's much better. I mean, as opposed to being in one classroom for 4 months at a time, and then clearly you're trying to reach these kids, but how many of them are you getting to? So your audience is maybe 35 to 50 kids, when we get that every single time that we go speak to juvenile detention facilities. I'm sure each and every time we've gone with little Tommy Sablon,
yeah,
and
Hall of
yourself,
Fame radio producer,
that we get to some of these kids, and if we only get to one each time, that's still pretty darn good.
It's great to have a platform too. So you're very accomplished athlete. Obviously, we've been talking about this whole time. Jeremy's an actor. I've done a few things in my career, but the beauty of what we do and the tool that we've been given with this platform of, we'll call it, celebrity status, when you walk into a place like that and these kids look at you, you get instant respect. They want to hear what you have to say, because there's a lot of walls that are put up between people, because most of these kids that we talk to have been lied to by the people that should love them the most. Mm-hmm. They've been just let down so many times that, rightfully so, there's a huge wall that goes up. And how good is it when we go in there and you can physically see with your eyes these walls beginning to come down, and these kids go from, you know what, F you, man, I ain't going to listen to you. You can see it in their eyes, to suddenly they open up and my message came through. And I know you're like me. We go there thinking we're going to give this message, but when we come out, it's us that's been touched.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Jeremy, you should see the way this guy starts it off, because you want to talk about impressive. Obviously they're checking out his guns and all that, but he brings a phone book and tears it in half in front of them. And they're just like, first of all, he passes it around and says, hey, can any of you guys tear this in half? And then he does it. And, that's kind of the first wall that gets broken down for Clark. And it's really cool to see. And he's exactly right. The body language of these kids are F you, we don't want you here. The only reason we're glad you're here is that means we don't have to be in our cells. And then these kids that are from 14 to 17, maybe 13 to 17, right? Suddenly, at some point during these talks, the body language changes and they're little kids again. They're eager and they start asking for autographs afterwards. And it's the coolest thing ever. I can't tell you how many times I've been out and a kid will come up from a free football camp that I've done, or from these things with you and little Tommy, and somebody will come up and say, hey, because of what you guys said, I've never been back to juvenile hall, and oh, by the way, I just enrolled in college. Something like that. It's
hallelujah.
That, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just
me
saying
too,
it.
me too. I feel that.
So those are the kinds of things
that
anybody can do. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a message that we can deliver. And I was actually giving the keynote speech to my wife's national sales meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I said, just understand this, that your words are so powerful. You don't understand whose life you can change for the better, or by being negative for the worse. And there's so much, clearly we're on social media right now. This is a great thing to put out, a wonderful message, but there's so much divisiveness and so much negativity. If we'd all, and that, if you're delivering that, trust me, it's inside of you. So the more positivity that you can deliver to people, the better you're going to feel about yourself.
Well, Jeremy, you brought a buddy with you today.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of, tell us what this relationship is all about.
Well, I mean,
I see him over there, and he's really into this, man. I can tell that it's touching him.
Yeah. Well, you know, we talked about, you know, the inner desire to be a teacher and to share, you know, and it made me wonder, okay, so like we're all, you know, people come to me, why don't you get back into acting? Or, you know what I mean? Like, you're this NFL Super Bowl star. There's a lot of things you could be doing. You know, Clark Bartram gets offered $10,000 to get naked on camera for people who are into muscle. You know what I mean? He could make a sole vocation of this.
I'll give you $10,000 to not do that.
You know, there's a lot of area where we could all, you know, go off in other directions and make a living or be less spiritual about this whole approach. But we're all craving to share and to give back. And why is that? Is it because people did it in our lives? Was it because we had a few people who really shined a light for us and we're like, I want to be like that? Or is it because we didn't get it enough? Is it because we have inner pain that we don't want other people to ever have to feel? You know, is it a combination of all of them? What is, you know, that same drive and that same desire and passion to share, to love on people and to light a way and to be the difference, to change those energies and the body language and the kid, wake them up, activate them, to be activated all the time and to activate others is the coolest thing ever, you know? And, you know, every once in a while it's tough. I work in the rehab and recovery industry, and not everybody wants to change. Not everybody wants a light. Not everybody wants to be different or to be happy. Some people really want to be miserable, and it gets a little taxing, you know, but every once in a while there's somebody who's hungry for newness and change, and who wants to have a life beyond their wildest dreams, who has a little bit of hope for a life beyond their wildest dreams, for better. And whenever those people, you know, whenever I see those eyebrows go up or a little bit of open heart, I try to take them under my wing. And, dude, I will be your best friend till the end, ride or die. You can cut yourself off from the body, and you know, I can't guarantee you will survive. But if we're connected together as a body, we will thrive. And I'll ride till the wheels fall off with you. And this is just one of those guys that wants it, man. You know, is willing to try stuff. So we've been having fun, man. We've been doing work. We've been doing some reading and some coming into community and you know.
How much time you got clean, brother? 60 days.
Ooh,
Congratulations,
yeah.
man.
Wow.
Yeah, give us some applause over there for
Yeah,
that, Jim. Come on, what's up?
Special guest. That's the real special guest, right?
Yeah,
You know?
and it is. And when I saw Jeremy walk in with Austin, I was like, here he goes again. Here goes Jeremy doing what Jeremy does. And I need to tell you, Austin, you right now, brother, are in really good hands with somebody who has been there and done that and can tell you all of the things that you should avoid and everything, you know. So hang on his hip pocket, man. Be there with him. And he's brought other guys through. And like he said, he's a ride or die bitch. He's gonna, you know what I mean?
I didn't hear that part.
I added that in.
Yeah, that's right.
But, you know, I don't know where these other guys are, but I tell you what, you can do anything it is you want to do because you have the right person on your team right now.
And honestly, dude, Clark's been one of those guys for me too. Like, look, if I could just be as cool as that dude, I would be okay. So we're all in it together. We all reach the hand down.
What's really cool, you know, we're talking about helping people out. For me, one of my missions in the last few years is to go back and find those people that helped me through. Mm-hmm. And
wow.
It has been so rewarding. One guy was a junior college coach who, after I was laughed at and said that I couldn't play in the Pac-10, now the Pac-12, that's how old I am. It's a new conference. He wouldn't let me quit, and he
I thought you were talking about my abs. I was gonna say.
Oh, dang! It's all about Clark again.
Do we have a green screen we can put up in front of him? That'd be great.
Now you
I got to bring a little levity to this.
Now you got to show
seriousness.
him. Now you got to show him,
What?
dude. You
What?
got to show.
What?
Oh, dang! He's seated, homie.
Oh my gosh,
He's got clothespins behind his back, pinching the skin. Don't let him fool you.
that's good. That's really good. He is getting older. You're 54,
man.
54. Damn. You're in your mid-50s now.
Dude, that's crazy. Did you ever think you were gonna like be 60 or? I mean,
No,
we're close to 60, dude.
I thought about that this morning. I'm now in my late 50s. I mean, literally less than 2 years from now, I'm going to be 60. And to think about you being in your mid 50s, I remember when my dad retired when he was 55, and I used to think, God, I wonder what he's going to do with his life. He's like really old. You know, it was. Fortunately, you know, I think we've changed that in our society. People understanding that there's still a lot of life left, but wow.
Well, Jim, scoot this over a little bit for me so I can see what Andrew said to Austin. He said, Austin, if you want, it's yours. I promise. Look, dude, people are giving you love on Facebook right now, encouraging you, man. So
the man of the hour, Austin, in the building.
And speaking of Andrew, Andrew's watching right now. He was working real hard to get in the NFL. He played in the Arena League for a little bit, and paid his dues. So there's a lot of people out here that are being inspired by what's going on right now. So this is legit, man.
One message, when I go and I'll talk to kids or something, because I drove a Lamborghini, I had supermodel girlfriends, I had fame, I had money. A lot of people think, man, if I just could get, in the NFL, if I was just a pro athlete, everything would be changed. If I just was famous, everything would be perfect. If I just had Clark Bartram's abs, then my life would be okay. Can you speak to that and what the double-edged sword kind of that entails and what it comes with, the responsibility it comes with, and how it did or didn't
To whom
change.
much is given, much is required.
Yeah, there it is.
I wanted to express this many, many times to my family. I've got 100 family members up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And, they would say things to me like, just know this, you're always going to be our little brother. You're always going to be, our punk little brother. We don't think you're anything special. And I think the hard part when you're an actor, when you're a model, when you're an athlete, is that people project onto you. Mm-hmm. They project that you think your shit doesn't stink.
Someone's saying it.
They project that your life must be amazing. You still have a lot of problems. And then I think when Steve Harvey came out recently and said,
the hardest working man in television.
Yeah, he said, had I known how hard fame was going to be, I would have never in a million years wanted it. Mm-hmm. And you think, whoa, wait a second, this guy's making millions and millions. He lives in a crazy mansion. And he said, well, the reason I live in this crazy big mansion is I can't go bowling, so I have a bowling alley in my mansion. I can't go to the movies, so I have a movie theater. Mm-hmm. And it's things like that where you can't go anywhere. I can't tell you how many times you get stopped, especially while I was still playing up in the Bay Area. You get stopped. You're on your way somewhere, and people want an autograph. And for that person, it's so important at that moment. But what the person doesn't understand is you've already been stopped 27 times on your errands, to sign autographs, and you do it. Otherwise, you're an asshole. You're an egomaniac. And so it's not all, fantastic. There are some things that come with it.
Yeah.
And
it's responsibility, man.
And unfortunately, we've seen so many people, and a guy that's gone through rehab and is now doing a great job for people. Ryan Leaf, of course, a lot of people here in San Diego know about him.
He's coaching high school football or something now, isn't he?
Yeah. The guy was in jail a couple of times for breaking in to people's houses and stealing their drugs.
Hey, prescription drugs, that's a rough one to get off of, man.
And can you imagine? The guy made more money in signing his name when he came out than I made in my 15-year career.
Wow.
And so you'd think, all that guy had to do was put it under his mattress, he would have been set for life. Well, that didn't happen. And why didn't it happen? For the same reason that we see that 82% of all players, have some issues within 3 years of retirement. And part of it is that you're not in the limelight anymore. Some people can't not be there.
Right.
Jeremy said that about acting. A lot of child stars, he said like 20 of them have committed suicide.
Yeah, just if you Google it, you'd be astonished of how many have died from an overdose or killed themselves on purpose. Wow. People ask me, about the acting stuff or whatever. It's like, if you're a roofer, you're probably going to fall off a roof. You know what I mean? If you're doing carpentry, you're going to slam your thumb with a freaking hammer. You know, there's
Right.
a risk reward ratio there, and many people don't fully understand what comes with being famous or whatever. And you said something that, you know, I've been kind of processing for a long time, because I will do good and like get off track, you know, and it's you know, when you are a celebrity, you're kind of forced to thrive in an inauthentic environment where people, like you said, are they're treating you in a way they think you want to be treated, or they're second guessing everything you say. Oh, I wonder if he said that because he thinks he's cool, or because he's better than me, or because he has more money than me. So there's not a lot of authentic interaction. And so you've had it, you know, you've had it all, what everybody wants. And at times I've had it all, what everybody thinks they want. But what it boils down to, what I'm hearing, is to be a worker among workers, to be just one of the guys doing your part to help, you know, on the bigger scale of things, is where it's at, is where the happiness is at.
Well, that's a great point, and people ask all the time, you know, okay, what does it feel like to win a Super Bowl? We all have dreams, and as a kid, I dreamt that. The reality of winning that game was better than the dream, but in a different way than I ever thought it would be. It wasn't in a party, let's go crazy way. It was a relief because the pressure was so immense. Literally, people had said before the season even started, because we signed people like Kenny Norton and Deion Sanders, you're going to win the Super Bowl. Had we not won it, we were a complete failure. And so it's interesting that these worlds that you're in front of people, it's not what people think. So my message is to go out and enjoy the little things. And, you know, it's become gardening. It's become listening to classical music. But probably most importantly is helping other people. I get as much endorphin release from going and speaking to kids as anything that I do.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. So true.
So, guys, I think that's a good place to wrap this podcast up today, man.
Wrap it.
A whole lot of inspiration, a whole lot of encouragement, and a whole lot of awesomeness right here with our special guest today, Super Bowl champion from the San Francisco 49ers, Mr. Gary Plummer.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. We got episode 3 coming up. We will have another very special guest in the house with you.
CBJJ sandwich.
I am Clark Bartram. That is
Jeremy Jackson.
And we are telling you to make it a great day. We'll see you. Bye-bye.